As an investor, you only have two states of being externally.
Yeah.
Either you are a super fan of the business, or you're suing the business. Like there's nothing else. There doesn't exist a pipeline stage that says we're publicly thinking about suing our company. That just, it doesn't exist, right? The only time that they would say that, they're considering suing is when they've already handed in a lawsuit.
When they filed it, it's public knowledge.
It's already public, right?
But it's also like, honestly, imagine you're watching a thriller and the main character gets asked, like, are you going to kill Greg? It's like, yeah, I'm gonna kill him in a couple of weeks. It's like, okay, great. It's like plot ruined. It's the same. You don't do that. You don't do that. Greg is gonna panic here. So last week, everyone in software pretty much lost their collective minds because there's a new motion everyone is like insanely interested in. I don't know if you've heard of this motion. I think it's called imposter-led growth. Have you heard of this?
I heard it's spy-bound.
Spy-bound.
Or prison-bound,
The thing
whatever you want to do.
You and I, we've worked in software, VC-backed companies, startups for more than a decade by now. We're old. I used to have hair when I started, just to put it into perspective. So we're
Mikkel
old
was
now.
running around and people were like, oh, I wish I had his hair.
Yeah. That's true story. And my wife also, anyway. So the thing is, I don't remember this amount of drama in such a short period of time. Meanwhile, the whole industry has blown up over becoming efficient and AI all over the place. It's like, what the heck is going on with Deel and Rippling here? I just gotta say, like, this is insane. This is insane.
So, and I think, people probably, have heard about this story now. We'll just quickly repeat it before we jump into our main thing. But basically, Deel dispatched a sales rep to Rippling, to work for Rippling.
Or did they have leverage on the guy? Who knows?
Yeah,
like,
they have dirt on him.
Yeah.
They have his, family locked away somewhere. Yeah. No, but, and then that sales rep was sending competitive information to Deel. I mean, those are two competitors, right?
Yeah,
you don't think immediately, but they're competitors, they're competing. And basically that sales rep was searching the Deel, the Rippling CRM for, there's someone, either trying to get a Deel customer or there's a competitive scenario with Deel. And then basically kind of sending information over to the Deel guys so that they could, either protect that customer or underbid Rippling in a specific way and kind of basically, win more deals with it.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. Yeah. The way that they figured this out, I don't know how they figured this out.
A honeypot. They did a honeypot.
They set a trap, basically, to basically kind of say, okay, now that's what it is. Honeypot, you mentioned it. And then, part of the funniness here is that this sales rep, when he realized that he was caught, he took his laptop and ran to the bathroom and locked himself in a stall for 4 hours.
Yeah. And he did not want to come out.
Probably to delete files that were all in the cloud anyway, and probably were already kind of seized anyway. Yeah. And that was last week.
Yeah, SaaS comedy on Netflix. That's going to be a new category. You're going to have to watch there. It's it's absolutely insane.
What I think is the most insane about this, right? So Deel is a big company, 800 million ARR. Yeah. I don't believe this whole thing that this was
the C-level was involved,
like a rogue director that kind of came up with this thing. I don't believe that. I believe C-level was involved.
Yeah.
I believe there was a meeting. Maybe not with the whole team. Do you need to have the CHRO in here? No, like she can stay where she is. But probably the CFO was there, CEO definitely, maybe a few others.
Yeah.
And they discussed this.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, the ones in favor say aye. And then it was like, the ayes have it, And everyone was like, yeah, actually, Jack, Jamie, Bob, I think we should go ahead, dispatch this spy. This is how we're going to do it. Jessica over there is going to take care of it. And then we're going to, lift our conversion rates. Imagine, because it must have happened like this or some other way. This a meeting like this, where they just agree that this is the right step to take. That's insane to me. That's absolutely insane to me.
Or what's the term? Like a double spy? It's like a double cross he's doing.
Yeah.
He's He's not a part of Deel. It's all orchestrated by Rippling. This whole thing is just, it blows my mind. And by the way, if you want to sue anyone on this show, it's Tony Holbein. He made this comment. This is all, by the way, an op-ed in recording we're going to make, because we're also going to talk about another very tender subject that also happened in this last week. And that's going to be like the main of the show. This is like a special. We've never done this before covering industry news. But I think you and I, after having just slacked back and forth, talked on the phone, talked on Google Meet, talked on a walk
Eaten
about this story.
5 packages of popcorn because we're scrolling
and drank
the feed.
a box of Red Bull. We were just like, you know what? We have to record it now. We can't just not do it. So if you haven't heard about 11x, which is the company we're going to talk about now, it is one of those AI SDR companies. We've talked about them previously on this show. I think our opinion is so far it's not working. It's not like you're hearing every single company applying AI SDRs. And that's okay. You know what? Maybe at some point the technology will catch up. They're kind of the catalyst. We're one of the first, I believe, to enter and building this tech. Well-funded, backed by Andreessen Horowitz, a few others. And I think grew. How fast did they grow, Tony? Do you recall?
So last year, I saw him post that he added $1 million ARR per month.
Yeah.
And, I think when they kind of did the round with Andreessen, so they had a round with Benchmark, which was like 20 million.
Yeah.
And then literally the next month, they did a round with Andreessen for 50 million or something like this. Andreessen Horowitz, it's like,
it's
not
that
like
small
we're talking,
company, like,
it's not like we're talking some backseater, I don't know. No, this is Andreessen Horowitz we're talking about. Right?
I like those guys, especially their haircut. It's kind of, they're cool. They're cool.
I see. I see what you did there.
But anyway, so Hassan Sukha, founder there, said they were growing really fast. They raised a bunch of money. I think you called them the darling of AI SDRs.
Yeah, no, of course, right? And I mean, they also made a big thing out of moving from London to San Francisco.
Right.
Because hey, that's the only place where you can build AI companies. I, by the way, asked Hassan if he wants to jump on the show and kind of just have that conversation. Didn't reply. I mean,
Go for it.
It's fine.
He got shit to do.
and I think the way we want to actually kind of look at this today is, sure, we have, at least Mikkel and I have read the TechCrunch article around 11x. If you haven't, we'll link it in the show. We also have a couple of other links. But I think what we want to do here today is kind of a fair assessment. Like a fair, from our perspective, assessment, know, and I think a large part of why this story took off on LinkedIn, I mean, first of all, you have all his competitors, like they're staring into it. Like most of their posts were like taking off basically. But then I think the other piece is, it's actually a little bit of schadenfreude, that's kind of going on there. It's like, these guys that, raised from Andreessen and doing this AI thing, and I knew it all along, they're all cheats, right?
Yeah.
I think that is kind of driving a lot of the popcorn here that's being consumed by folks scrolling LinkedIn. And I think, we have an opinion. We have an opinion on, what probably is right, what probably is wrong. And was there anything wrong to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Kind of, that's almost another question to ask. And I think that's what we wanted to jump into today.
And the thing is, we only have the same facts that you, the dear listener, have, and the ones we put in the show notes, obviously. So a lot of it's got to be opinions. That's okay. I think we're going to have a bit of fun with it, though. The other interesting thing to this story, by the way, is TechCrunch itself got acquired about, I want to say, a month ago, in case you didn't know. As far as I can recall, the story there goes, we're going to keep everything as is, guys. We're just going to keep going. Staff as is. Cut everything, cut half the team, everyone out the door, and now this article. So I was just like, when I saw the title, I was like, I wonder if there's been a leadership change in direction of this company plus limited resources. Are they cutting corners here?
No, there was some really heavy, deep research going on with the intern on Perplexity.
Yeah, exactly. And hallucinations, what? So I think, one thing I at least learned in school is to also be critical of the sources. And I think you should be critical of what Tony and I are sharing, the opinions we have. I think you should be critical of TechCrunch. I think you should be critical of 11x and Hassan Sukha as well. We're going to jump into this story now and have a bit of fun, because I think basically TechCrunch gave us the blueprint. And the first one in there is really, they have fake customers.
Yes. So what happened there apparently, and I think this is where TechCrunch did some good journalism, actually. Apparently 3 of the logos that were up until recently very prominently cited on the website basically say they were never customers. And And, those are big companies. We're talking about Zoom Info, Airtable. It's not like everyone, it's not like the PR department knows what some random RevOps dude did somewhere, right? So, totally get that. But apparently, especially in Zoom Info's case, kind of this is where they were happy to shed some light on this apparently. Was like, well, yeah, we had a conversation. We never got to like any contract, maybe, nothing like that. And for the last 4 months, Zoom Info has been trying to get their logo off the website and out of the outbound messages from 11x, right? In those 11x outbound messages was like, hey, customers like Zoom Info, etc. Basically, and this is where I gotta say, have I ever myself put up a logo on the website that kind of, wasn't using it anymore, or kind
Don't
of
say
churned,
it.
but
Don't
contractually it was like,
don't do it.
yeah, totally did that. And you know what? And just listening to, I can tell you 80-90% of folks listening here, same thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely same story. You can blame the marketing process, which Hassan did in his rebuttal statement, basically.
Yeah.
So we also want to put this side. We're like, hey, that shit happens, and I totally agree with him. I think where it gets a little bit more than just like, we forgot to update, or we were like, we're kind of pushing a little bit too far, is the whole there's Zoom Info proactively reaching out. I think I even saw the lawyer word somewhere there.
Yeah,
with to Hassan, the CEO.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is, you can't, that part you can't blame on marketing anymore. I'm sorry. Kind of if a company like this with a lawyer and CC is in my inbox, I'm like, I'll spin up Lovable myself and remove it.
Yeah.
It's
crazy. Also, just the amount that it's the majority of the logos on the front page, not customers.
I'm not sure if it's the majority. It was 3, and I don't know kind of what it is, but like it was really nice logos, like Zoom Info, Airtable, like juicy, and the third one didn't want to be mentioned, probably like similarly juicy, but just doesn't want to have anything to do with the scandal, right?
I gotta say, I wonder how Zoom Info found out. Like, I can see someone in the RevOps team going like, I heard about this 11x. Maybe we should check it out if this could be from us. It's like, wait, we're using it already? Who should I talk with internally? I need to figure out who has access to this tool. It's like,
the thing is, actually, technically speaking, these two guys are competing.
I was actually gonna say, like, what is the interest of Zoom Info here? Because they're in the same space. Are they about to drop an AI SDR themselves? Have they already? Actually, I don't know though. But
I think some of it, not kind of the whole thing, but 11x also offers like lead sourcing and stuff. And guess what Zoom Info does? It's like I think there's a little bit of this there. But anyway, right? Kind of that's the fake customer thing, which to a degree, I think all of us are guilty of this. And then a temptation is crazy high. Jason Lemkin was even, weighing on this topic, and he was saying like, hey, I get it. He didn't say he did it, but he said he understands how big that conviction is, or the what is it called, the temptation, but urged everyone to resist it. Like, he's like the Pope, basically. Like, I know people, anyway.
And I just got to say, the funny thing here is, if you look at, to your point, Hassan's rebuttal on X, right? He has a long post with basically some bullets rebutting all the points in the TechCrunch article. And his point here is like, hey, we never claimed customers we didn't have. The customers named, paid, and used our product for a time and then churn. And so this is like, we were lazy and stupid, basically. And then really slow, to your point with the lawyer, I think is how I would interpret that, basically. So the other thing that's kind of interesting as well is insane churn. Like, you and I have talked about this in previous episodes, maybe closely tied also to the product itself. But let's talk a bit about the insane churn. We're getting a lot of, I want to say, mixed messages. I forget what they cited in the article itself. I think that it was something like 80%. What was it? GRR retention rate?
No, it was 80%. 80% churn.
80% churn. Okay, wow. And the rebuttal from Hassan Sukkar was, that is not that high, guys. He didn't provide an alternative number, which I find kind of interesting just as an observer.
I don't know where I read it, but I read, I think he put something like 78 GR or something somewhere. So the thing is, and this is what's super confusing, I've now, 6 months ago, just after the Andreessen round, I talked to someone, with knowledge close to the source here, with knowledge of this whole thing, and he was telling me that they have double-digit monthly churn, which, if you
Not a SaaS company anymore.
no, so exactly, right? So kind of he was he's a VP of like a 1,000 people company, and he was like openly questioning and wondering how Andreessen, how they ended up that they made
how
that
did they
deal,
miss that?
right?
Yeah.
So this is number one, and this is kind of from sources inside saying like, hey, this is the churn number. Then I talked to an investor like a month ago, and it's like a I don't know, people like that stuff. Again, it's a Schadenfreude, and I'm guilty of it too, by the way. But another investor said like, hey, they have like 60% net retention rate or something like this, right? So that's another sign like, okay, it's probably pretty fucking bad, right? And I think, if I'm trying to read between the lines, I think what's going on there is they're just doing the accounting in a weird way, some mixed signals are they're pressuring people to be, stay in the contract, don't let them out. And then there's some signals, hey, they kind of let some people out of the contract or have like this break clause there. And the thing is, right, so if you sell ARR, and this is, CFOs close their ears right now, but if you sell ARR, you obviously can use a metric called CARR, so contracted ARR, very similar to like booked ARR or something like that. So stuff that, is papered in a contract with a signature and everything, but it's not really ARR yet, right? And I think that's what they did. I think kind of they closed a, $50K deal with a 3-month break clause, and they counted the $50K fully into contracted ARR. And maybe they were even upfront to their investors that that's actually how they report, right? Yeah. I don't think this is a absolutely crazy way to report on your ARR. I think it's actually okay. Yeah. The caveat here, though, being is if you have people exercising the break, like majority of the time, then I think that is a reason for you should maybe be adjusting this a little bit, right? Yeah. So in other words, if you have a break clause after 3 months, which I think is actually fair, especially for AI products and the POCs, I totally get it, and you have 20 or 30% breaking, you probably that works out for you. I think that's okay. At least as it seems like from those employees that work there, people have been exercising this break clause way more often, more often. Yeah. That they're talking a difference between more than 10 million ARR versus really only having 3 million ARR. Yeah. Kind of that's the difference we're talking, right? I don't know what the math comes out to kind of specifically in in a new biz kind of world, but it seems significant. Right. And I think in this sense, using a metric to pump up this, this revenue that actually doesn't really exist, I think that's a little bit bold. Let's just say it like that. But also folks, not unheard of either, right? No. Kind of just like with the customer logos, it's, it's hard for me to say like, oh, that obviously is against industry standard. It's like, no, people playing around with this metric.
You also just got to realize even those numbers aren't great. Even though they aren't great, you still have 2 top tier VC firms choosing to invest in that company. So it can't be all bad either, right? I think probably they have a really good acquisition engine running and some tailwind right now. Or was it because Andreessen Horowitz and the other guys just fell prey to the hype and just had to get on board this AI train?
No, I don't believe that.
And I don't believe that either.
I don't believe it's stupid investors that didn't do the due diligence. I think sure there was some FOMO and some speed on the deal and stuff like that. Yeah. The bigger question to ask, do you think Andreessen would be interested if this company after 2-3 years of operating would be at 2-3 million AR?
No.
So and I think that's the story here actually, right? It's like I think they did post that they were like a 10 million, 12 million or something like this. Yeah. And it will forever be unclear how clearly they communicated in their documentation that that's actually not the case. But
and brings us maybe to the other thing, by the way, I just want to throw in here is the alleged Andreessen Horowitz lawsuit, kind of which was in there. I think it's been disputed. I think it's dead. As far as I can tell, it seems like they got a comment that they're not actually intending to take any kind of legal action. And I think it's also interesting if you checked. I mentioned this to you. I think the SaaS CFO on X, so Twitter, saying, was there any wrongdoing? Mm-hmm. Was there? And if not, then there's no lawsuit. So doesn't mean Andreessen Horowitz necessarily is happy with their investment. Doesn't necessarily mean that. But legal grounds wise, dubious, I think.
So I don't know how this legally all of this works out. I can't comment on this. I think for me it would be like, have they fundamentally misrepresented the business during the due diligence process?
Yeah.
Right. And will we on LinkedIn and X figure this out? No, we won't. Kind of from the outside, forget about it. It's just not gonna happen. I think two things in my mind. Like one thing is, as an investor, you only have two states of being externally.
Yeah.
Either you are a super fan of the business,
Yeah.
or you're suing the business. Like there's nothing else. Like it's those two things. There doesn't exist a pipeline stage that says we're publicly thinking about suing our company. That just, it doesn't exist, right? So if you ask them for comment, they will obviously, the only time that they would say that, they're considering suing is when they've already handed in a lawsuit.
When they filed it's public knowledge.
It's already public, right? That would be the only time where they would say, yes, kind of, we did that.
Yeah.
So up until then, if you ask them for a real comment, you will get that they're super fans, obviously, right?
But it's also like, honestly, imagine you're watching a thriller and the main character gets asked, like, are you going to kill Greg? It's like, yeah, I'm gonna kill him in a couple of weeks. It's like, okay, great. It's like plot ruined. It's the same. You don't do that. Greg is gonna panic here.
I don't think they're suing them, by the way. So that's actually kind of, at the end of the day, I don't
Everybody's
think they
gonna
are.
lose.
I don't think they are. I don't think it makes sense. But also, and this is, I think, the most disturbing thing, at least for me in my head, is like, you can say about TechCrunch what you want. Like recently kind of acquired, everyone is being slashed and so forth. I think they don't print something like this without having at least someone saying something like this.
There will be a discussion. Like also, hey, we have a relationship with some of these folks, like some of the VCs, potentially we want to maintain, right? And I think you're right. Like they have sat down and discussed this. Like, can we publish this? Are the sources strong enough? Do we believe these people you actually spoke with, right? And I think you're right. They have had that conversation. Maybe they also even had legal counsel, to be honest, as part of this, which is not uncommon in this process. So
sure, but like let's not forget, this is not the New York Times. Like
no,
it's not like they're that standard and stuff.
But it's also not the Sun, right?
Yeah, that's right. No, exactly. And I think they were probably sitting around the table and it's like, hey, is this BS or is it not?
Yeah.
And then someone said like, hey, you have this call recording here with this person, and she didn't want to be on the record. He didn't want to be on the record, but they said like, hey, that seems likely. And that probably was good enough for them to kind of take this and print this. And they should. I made the story a lot more fun also, a lot more interesting for, it hyped up the Schadenfreude a lot more.
Totally.
We had this logo too long on the website, right? Kind of, I think that, if you break it down, that's almost, for me, that's the core of the whole thing.
I think journalistically speaking, or me as a reader, I think the only way they could have done it better is if it was like the Travis story out of Uber, where they had leaked internal emails and memos and stuff to back up the story other than just quotes. But it's also like, who's going to give you that? Like that requires so much more.
All the disgruntled employees that we're going to talk about.
So let's talk about them. Let's talk about the employees. Like when I read the article and I saw the next 2 points we're going to get into, it's like, oh, a lot of employees are leaving and are unhappy. Product is underwhelming. I was like, you just described 80% of software companies in scale-up mode right there. It's like, I'm sorry, open up Glassdoor. All of them, they're going to have not the greatest rep. Like, honestly, because it is a chaotic environment. A lot of change happens. And if you can't keep up with the change, you're going to be left on the station, not getting that promotion or being let go or replaced by someone else. And it's often also not like that super seasoned leader who totally understands how to work and manage people, by the way. There's a lot of learning on the backs of people happening as well. And I was like, when I read that one, I felt like Tarantino, like the world's smallest violin.
Yeah.
Just playing a little bit. And don't get me wrong, I'm not happy about this, being in the industry myself. I think it's terrible how unhappy our employees in general everywhere is. But it's just, can you fault 11x for that? And I mean, obviously, you can. Yes, they could have done a better job, but it's also just pretty normal.
No, yeah. So that's the point, right? Kind of, it's pretty normal, and this is not about normalizing stuff, right? Kind of some of the examples in the article is, hey, people aren't getting paid on time.
Yeah, and that's like not okay.
That's like it's a weird admin chaos thing. Yeah. Just like, dude, I mean, you have 70 million in your bank account. He even says like, we've barely touched the 70 million. Like, why can't you pay your folks in time? There are things in there that, they're playing shenanigans with people's notice periods and stuff. Like, if you quit, you don't get money anymore. So people quit after they got their paycheck. And like, it's, that's just, I don't think this is good taste.
Let's take some of the quotes here. He doesn't believe in people taking holidays. It's like, okay, good.
Yeah, and he disputes that also in his ex, right?
But it's also like, okay, so are people not getting any holiday there? I would just ask. And that's not pointed out in the article as being the thing. The other thing is like, oh, the founder would be on Slack in 3 a.m. with urgent message. And I was like, yep, you just described a lot of founders right there in software. I think where it changes for me is, again, actually back to the Uber story, when there's sexual harassment, when there's a bunch of other things, like the paycheck, not okay, by the way. And I also think, obviously, as a leader, should he maybe keep to himself that he doesn't believe in people taking holiday? Yeah, he totally should. I don't think that's a great taste either. But also, like, you have to realize some of the people building some of these companies, such as 11x, they are special. Like Elon Musk is you have to be a bit special to want to put, a rocket that goes to Mars. You have to be special. And I think that's also the case here, to be honest.
No, and I also think kind of people can vote with their feet, right?
Yeah.
If they don't want to work for that thing, then just don't, by the way. And that's what they're voting with, right? But if then someone is deciding to leave, don't fuck them on the way out. I think that that's bad taste. And again, it might be like 1 or 2 instances where that happened and it's getting blown up right now, but I think that is bad taste. And yeah,
I think it's also like, it's common. You have to also realize, and I've spoken with a few about this. It's like, where it's like, hey, I'm not sure their reputation is that good. It's like, well, most companies in scale up, they by accident, not by ill will, hire too many people. And then they realize the burn rate is too high. And what needs to happen? They need to do a reduction in force, which means you're going to have a lot of unhappy and disgruntled employees, basically. So it is common, sometimes not even ill-willed.
I think there's one other aspect to this, though, which I totally sympathize with. If you have Benchmark and Andreessen in your boardroom, you better show the rocket ship growth that you've promised. Like, you better.
Yeah.
And the high churn, and then we're going to talk about the product in a second, seem to not make it easy for Hasan to make this be a rocket ship.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how much money you have left on the bank account. Kind of, if you have Sequoia or Andreessen or any of these guys in your cap table, there's also going to be the day where they're like, you know what, Hasan, maybe it's time for you to step aside, right? Kind of, there's totally.
Let's just give this to zoom in for now.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredibly difficult to live up to the story that you sold.
Yeah.
Which is your job, by the way. And then kind of deliver all of that stuff despite all the headwinds, despite all the, uphill battles. And it's really difficult to, keep that pressure for you and not push it to your employees.
Yeah.
And to a degree, you want to push it to employees because maybe then they work more and stuff, right? So it's like, I totally get that, but it's also a little bit of an outcome of the situation, if you will, right?
Yeah.
What is, I think, funny around the whole thing, though, is he himself says he has barely touched the 70 million. Then it's also like, well, why exactly did you raise them?
Yeah.
Like, why exactly 70 million, actually?
Yeah.
Right? But I think that's a topic for another show, actually, kind of how some of that financing is shifting. But it's, I'm just saying, it's like, well, I said you could probably live a much funner life also in San Francisco, building this rocket ship without, that boardroom that you have there.
I don't know what motivates him and drives him. Gotta say, I don't know. I have to say, though, he's built something awesome so far. Like, we can fault it for all the sense and purposes of, like, for hours, even if we wanted to, but he got backed by some pretty strong guys. He's acquired a lot of customers still. He definitely has built a lot of ARR, and they also have built a product that might not work yet. And I think that's also pretty cool. Like, obviously we want to see success here. I think the sad thing about this whole story is it pulls down this AI SDR realm quite a lot. And I actually think it is a powerful, even further. Because the next point we're going to talk about now is the product itself, actually.
Yeah.
And you and I have kind of been teasing a bit, at least on and off in previous episodes, along with other folks like Carl Coleman, saying like, it doesn't work yet. Like, we've not seen that SaaSter and Growth on Hinge and 20VC and us like covering it like crazy and telling all these stories of companies that made it to 10 million with AI SDRs and one AE. Like, it's not, It's not happening yet. We found one article. I think it's from October
Late last year.
Last year. Someone decided to run a test of, let's just include three AI SDR tools here at least. It's 11x, Artisan, and AI SDR, which is pretty much, I think, the three. I think it's the three big one. It's really 11x and Artisan that I kind of bump into here. And basically bought a license for the software, gave it contacts to contact, and kind of monitored the results and how much it cost per reply. Now, here's the cost per reply. I'm going to give you for 11x first. $2,500 for a reply. We're not talking meeting. We're talking a reply. That's positive. That's not a, hey, don't you call here no more. Yeah, don't call him no. Don't call no more. Artisan, $550. AI SDR, $1,200. And as I saw those numbers, I just paused for a second and went like, geez, they really have long ways to go still to make this work. They really do. Now, let's not get into the specifics of how the tactic was run. I can appreciate that a lot of factors play into how you do the outreach, what the hook is. What is the outreach even about? Is your product interesting? Do you have there's a million factors at play here. But it kind of at least resonates with what you and I have been hearing from other folks we've spoken with on and off this show, which just doesn't work yet. It does not work yet. People are using those 3-month break clauses at 11x. People are hesitant to invest in some of the other tools. It's not taking off in the way we would expect it to yet.
One other nugget I ran into is out of these 3, 11x is still the only one that hasn't claimed their G2 review page.
Yeah.
And you can be like, well, we don't believe in this badge stuff. And, certainly I think there's a good point to it. But it's a little bit where there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing. It just piles on. It's just weird, right? And I think the SDR role, lends itself extremely well to be automated. I think so. It's super repetitive. Has to do with lots of data, and like no one wants to do it. So I totally get it. Perfect. And I think some folks are kind of innovating really nicely in the market. And I think if there's anything here, it's probably that 11x isn't there yet. That's probably what it is, right? And is this true for many other companies? Yeah. Is this true for the company you and I built? Before? Yeah. And we failed even harder, right? So it's like nothing like, ooh, wow, these 11x guys. But it does add to the story that I believe, which is kind of the thing that everyone is taking away from, is this Schadenfreude on the one hand side, and it's the, this darling unicorn thing is coming crashing out of the sky, and it's really just, the same like all of us, basically.
I just wonder if it's, honestly, I gotta say, I just wonder if it's because it's gonna become the symbol of this AI hype. That eventually it's going to break. Eventually it's going to break, right? And I also got to say, I wonder, do they truly have product market fit? Don't get me wrong, by the definition, that's 1 million ARR, they do. But the churn is crazy, right? And I think that's probably true for all of them, by the way. And again, we're not seeing this getting picked up by every single company and scaling like crazy. Like, honestly, I think people there doing the POCs and then determining, hey, it's a great way to very quickly burn our TAM while paying for it. I think that's what a lot of folks are learning. And honestly, I think what this sector has not figured out yet is how the product should operate and work. If I look at Cursor, they could have built it like it's not a copilot. Like, you don't need to be in the code editor at all. It just writes it for you. But they've actually leaned into building it as a code editor with AI assistance, which kind of makes sense. It's still going to replace headcount. It is, but there's still someone operating it. Now, full transparency, I've not worked with the AI SDRs. I don't know if it's the same kind of co-pilot, but I just got to say, from what I've seen, really doubt it. Really doubt it.
Yeah.
So, this company, are they going to make it?
It's really difficult to say what are they going to make it means. Honestly, I don't think they have crazy burn. They have 70 million on their bank account.
Yeah.
They can make it for a very, 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 very long time before there's now we didn't make it. So I think in that perspective, I think it's probably going to work out. I think they have a lot to do though. Let's just kind of flip this around. No, honestly, let's just flip this around. I think they have a lot of fucking work in front of them to make this a successful business. And I think, yes, you need to have good employees that are motivated to do that stuff. Yes, I think you need to have a product that, you know, is being loved and liked by their customers. And yeah, you probably need to avoid some of the potentially, we don't know, shady tactics being used here, right? Because this whole thing is also a trust thing, right? Especially in the AI space. And people talk a lot about hallucinations and trusting those, but now it's like, oh, can I trust this business? Right? Yeah. So I think this is, you know, I think they got a lot of press.
Yeah.
Like more people know 11x now. Like that's you know, I think it's going to be a net positive. They're going to get more demos because of it. But I also think there's going to be a little bit of like more scrutiny. You know, I think everyone is going to have a 3-month break clause now. Yeah. I think they were trying to get away with it. And that's why I'm saying kind of, I saw folks being forced into the 12 months and Hassan is like, for like, you know, enterprise customers, special needs, we have a break clause, kind of that's specifically how I said it in the LinkedIn thing. Yeah. I can see exactly what he was trying to achieve. But I think everyone now is want to have the 3-month break clause. And there's going to be more like this now that's going to bite them in the butt a little bit. And I think they can totally win this thing. I think if Andreessen backs you, you're the de facto industry winner, period. Game over for all the other guys. And now it's, first of all, you know, it's a question now. Like, is that really the case? And because of that, I think there's just a lot of fucking work ahead of them, which is fair.
But you also know,
that's what companies, startups do. They have a lot of work in front of them.
But I think you're right. With the trust piece, though, the challenge they're going to face is the ability to go and raise the next round to continue rapid pace, right? So they might get outfunded by some of the other guys and then lose the battle at the end of the day, right? Who knows?
I don't think so.
Who knows? But anyway, let's see what happens. We just don't know. I think the challenge here is for sure when that kind of trust starts eroding, like we don't know. Like, is there a potential lawsuit? Did they fudge the numbers? Did they do all kinds of things that just like straight up, no, you should never do that? We don't. But just by watching this story from afar, watching Hassan's rebuttal and kind of the chatter around it, it's like, yeah, it's not like they're running a clean ship. Like we can say that much, right? And if which is
again, like who does run a clean ship at that point?
Well, there's sure, like, but there is all a scale. And all I'm saying is, at the end of the day, there's going to be someone who is going to apply for a job or get headhunted, and they're going to like, ooh, you were the guys who were in TechCrunch, weren't you?
Yeah, that's true.
And then not in a good way. So, you know, it does have ramifications. And how's this going to unfold? Don't know. I think there's definitely learnings in here.
I mean, I personally know like a VP level guy that was considering to maybe apply at a job at Deel and pulled that because, hey, you know, totally. It seems a little bit shady here, right? So I think to your point, I think there's definitely something. I think a couple of things will become a little bit or get a little bit more difficult for 11x going forward for sure.
That's it. Very different story. Let's see if the drama continues. I think this is a really fun conversation. Again, this was our opinion. This was our kind of thoughts on this story. Let's see how it develops.
And actually, kind of everyone listening and thinking this is interesting, the invitation to Hassan to come on and kind of chat about it or something else. It doesn't actually matter. No. Maybe
I'm curious about the story anyway. Like, honestly,
feel free to ping him and tell him, hey, you should really go on the revenue forum and chat with Tony and Mikkel and just ping him. Just kind of send him an email or something like that.
Or use Artisan and start like an outbound campaign to get him on. Yeah. I'm sure he's going to love that. Tony, thanks so much.
Mikkel, thanks everyone. And hit the subscribe button, please, would you? Okay, thanks, man. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.